Alrighty, wow. How's it going, everybody? I hadn't made a video in a while. But I want to try to not to be very long. I've been extremely busy with cars, and I have to slow down because people are approaching me left and right about working on their car, and I don't have a shop like that. I work out of my garage, and I just don't have. I'm overwhelmed because it's just me, and the money's not good enough for me to do it anyway. Anyhow, my name is Mark. I wanted to. I call my channel Mark's Music Place because I got no other name for it. So I thought I'd make a video right quick about one of the aspects. Is so many aspects. I hate when I hear those noises because I know what happens. I'll explain it. Why I'm always looking around when I. What happens is I got a window unit because my main unit went out, and I'm not up here anyway, but mainly in the studio. I'm hardly ever in the guest bedroom or the other room, but I'm still going to get the upstairs unit fixed. So I think there's little bitty cracks in the window unit because I take it out in the winter, and there's little bitty cracks where I think moths, they squeeze through because of the light. So, and then they'll fly around the room, and of course they're bouncing against the light, and that's what catches my attention. But anyhow, let me check and make sure I'm recording. I still need to get a flip kit. Yeah, I am recording. Okay. I don't want to be very long. But I have a really good friend of mine. His name is Phil. We talk all the time. And what made how we clicked is we both jail on the audio engineering side and the recording side. And, he's a musician. I'm a musician. Yeah, that low there's, I hear it. So if I kill a moth, you'll know why if I get distracted. Because that little, I know what it is because the light's bright. And they're bouncing against the light, and it catches my attention, I guess because I was in the Army. So noises catches my attention. But anyhow, I'm going to try to not be very long, but one time he had mentioned about grounding. Okay, I've been in quite a few professional studios, but I was not keen on the wiring. Not so much how the wiring for gear is, or the mixing console. I know how that's wired. I know how the gear and racks are wired. If you ever take a piece of an actual outboard gear, an actual piece of unit, I don't care if it's a compressor, reverb, EQ, effect. They always have the same standard, whether you have unbalanced quarter-inch inputs and outputs, and they'll have like XLR, which is balanced inputs and outputs. Almost every piece of rack gear is going to have that, whether you have a single channel, dual channel, stereo channel, whatever. That's the common. So that was common sense. So anything input, what goes in must come out. And how you connect the in to out is a common sense thing. Okay. Knew that. Been in studios, from building my own home recording studio to been in pro studios and other people's studios. And so that's the common sense thing. And just have worked with, gear. Now, what I was not aware of is how the building and the grounding of patch bays and I hear it. And that's, so I'm gonna go get my little fly swatter and kill it because it's up there somewhere. I hear it bouncing against the light. But anyhow, so what I was not aware of was how the actual wiring and the in-depth of wiring and the class of wire and the grade of wire, how expensive and important it is. This is the reason why there are a lot of factors to why a commercial professional recording studio has so many advantages over a home studio. Because one of the things about home recording studios that are not looked about, unless this is probably someone that has very knowledge of how, they've worked in recording studios, wire professional recording studios, so they know how to wire their homes. And one thing, the power is separated. One thing, I know about electricity and electrical from my experience in the Army and being an avionics tech. But that's only working for military gear and equipment, working on helicopters, but not on a level of working in a commercial studio setup. And whenever I've been in a recording studio, they're already wired. And a lot of that wiring is already in the wall, is under the floor. You can't see it. Even the patch bays are either behind panels. They might be next to the console. They might be in a separate rack. They could be on the wall or whatever. But the wiring is hidden. And one of the things I didn't know was a lot of wiring to those patch bays are soldered. They're permanently soldered. And a lot of wire is wired through the walls. Like if I was going to take my other room and create what they call mic tie line, let's say I was going to take my other bedroom and turn it into a tiny, because that's really be a really, really small live room. I could tie both of these rooms, what we call tie lines, but I could put mic lines in there, or whatever the case may be, and I could wire that wire. But what would happen to make it look professional I would cut a hole in the wall and run the wire through the walls, over into the attic upstairs, run it up in the attic, and then bring it to the attic to the other rooms and drop the wire and come through the walls and build panels. And those panels are soldered with high-grade, high-quality wire and grounding. And that's what makes them so expensive. But the thing is, if you've got a home recording studio and you don't have your stuff properly grounded, you're probably going to get noises and hums somewhere, because most of the time, most typical homes, the outlets are wired onto the same fuse box circuit that the AC, HVAC unit is on, the refrigerator, the microwave, the TV, because those homes are specifically designed to just run a TV, a microwave in the kitchen. There's a special 220 volt for the washer. Maybe you're in a dry wash and dryer room, 220 volts for the dryer, whatever the case. There's 220 volts in the kitchen for the oven. But other than that, most of the outlets are your typical 110 to 120, 60 hertz cycle outlets. And the only thing they were planning for you to put in their room is maybe a PlayStation or, an Xbox, a TV. Your typical stuff that you would plug in a home, in a bedroom, alarm clock or whatever, stuff that your typical stuff. No one's, hooking up an Allen and Heath 48 channel console with, racks of gear and all that. That's the biggest dilemma that in here, because every outlet in here was not designed that. So majority of every outlet in this house is dirty, what they call dirty electric, which is going to create buzzes and hums. In a professional recording studio, everything is isolated based on its room. So the wire, that's why when they have a commercial studio built, special electrical engineers that know how to wire a recording studio takes all that into account, including wiring up the patch bay. The patch bay is grounded. It's a certain type of grounding system from the patch bay, because all the gear, the racks are going to be sharing that same electrical sources, and the grounds have to be proper, and the grounds in the console. There's so many grounds, and then the wiring itself is high grade wires. You're talking very expensive. It could be a good commercial studio will probably run you $10,000 to $15,000 just in wiring, high grade wiring. And so, like for example, in a commercial studio, in the live room, the panel that's built there, that's specially wired to go into the control room, that's high grade wire that cannot have electrical issues, because once it's in the wall or on the floor, you're not going to be going through the walls to find breaks and problems in the wiring. But this is one of those key things on why professional recording studios, if it's wired properly, gives it so much of an edge, other than the acoustics, where they have the proper sound isolation, acoustic paneling, diffusers. All this stuff is all taken into account. But the wiring is one of the most overlooked, probably in people that build home recording studios. They never really think how just plugging, I'm just going to, buy an interface, keyboard, mouse, computer, headphones, my interface. I'm just going to plug that into your conventional wall, not realizing that wall outlet is got the same with the refrigerator. So the grounds are sheared, and the refrigerator is constantly going because of the compressor of the refrigerator, and or whatever the case may be. These may be the same wall. Next night now you have to find ground isolators, and you got to get this certain grounding to kill the ground, and then you have to separate the ground and all this other stuff. So you get the noise, so you won't get all these noises and buzzes that you're hearing through your studio monitors. You turn on your studio monitors, and you might have, I don't care if it's a little 2-channel Focusrite, a little, it could be a 3 or 4-channel, whatever, interface or whatever, and you plug that up and you listen to your studio monitor, and you hear this slight little, like a little ground buzz. You hear this little buzzing, grounding. You're like, man, why is it always this? Because most people know that your audio interface, most of the time, has got a power adapter. So it's a little 12-volt, tiny little power adapter in the back that goes to like a little converter, 120-volt, 12-volt converter. And that little 12-volt might only have the little negative, positive prong. Sometimes don't even have the 3-prong with the ground. Sometimes it's just a 2-prong. And now, you turn it on and, whatever case. Now we're trying to get these little ground isolators because the house, typically most houses just don't have that. Ground, versus commercial studios, they're perfectly wired specifically to eliminate all that. So, for example, if I was to take my recording studio to do it right, I would probably run into about $10,000 worth of proper wiring to make these rooms properly wired properly, and that's what makes them so expensive. This is what gives studios the edge. Those are key factors into why professional recording studios, why they work the way they do. First, whether even the console, the way it's wired, most of the time, if you look at your patch bay, if you ever wonder, and I'll try to go wrap it up. It's, I got about, it's been, I guess, 12 minutes or whatever. Let me look at my time. Okay, let me wrap it up. Okay, if you ever went into what they do is, most studios, if they have multiple, they'll have what they call mic lines and tie lines. The tie lines are to tie separate rooms into one control room or multiple control rooms from different places within the recording studio. They'll tie, so that way you can plug into anywhere within the studio and come to the same recording source. Your recording source control would be the control room. So they'll run tie lines to those, and that's wired through the walls. It's coming, that you can't see it. All you can see is the panels. And then there's mic lines. Most of the time, the mic lines are running to preamps, whether the mic lines are running to a patch bay that's going to run into preamps within the console, or the patch bay where you can route it. It's normal or half normal or whatever in the patch bay where you can reroute out of the preamp and go into individual preamps. There's a video on patch bays that'll explain that, but most of the time, so in the recording room, the live room where the musicians are going to play, or there's a vocal booth. It may be in the same live room, or it might be in an isolated vocal booth. And sometimes the rooms are isolated. Drums, the guitar or the cabinets, they're isolated in a different room because they're loud or whatever, and they're trying to prevent a lot of bleed over from the mic, condenser mics picking it up. But when you walk in these recording studios, you plug into these what they call mic lines. They're basically patch, like XLR patch on the wall or somewhere in that room, and that'll run into, most of the time, preamps on the console, or you can route through a patch bay to run to different preamps to get a different flavor. Or sometimes people just run those mic lines and run it directly into the input of an interface. Because a lot of interfaces, if you don't have, like, professional recording studio interfaces don't have preamps in them. They're just AD to DA converters. But your consumer grade $200-300 interfaces do have preamps in them, and they're just very basic preamps. They're not going to be the ones that give you a lot of warmth and color like a Neve 1073 or an API 312 or something like that, or an Avalon 737. They're not going to have that because it's too expensive to build that in a $400. They're not going to build a $3,000 preamp and put it on a $4 interface and sell it for $299. They're losing 90% of profit doing that. So they're going to give you a very basic, a $299 audio interface, probably going to have a $20 preamp in it, which consists of a few resistors and an op amp or a transistor, whatever the case. Very basic. And all it does is turn the volume just to bring the mic level up to line level. Console usually have mic inputs and line level, so you can go from line level. Mic levels are very, very low signal. So that's why you gain stage to get everything even and level, versus line level. Like guitar amps, the guitar pickups on your guitar is really, really quiet. That's why you plug into an amp. And then that amp is mic'd, or if you have a DI direct out or DI box or whatever, that's a whole different video too. But I'm trying to speed the video up. But all that, and when you walk into that live room, you plug into that, and then, channel 1 usually goes into channel 1 of the mic line in the live room goes into the console via patch bay, because sometimes they want to put some outboard gear in the signal chain, compressor maybe, some EQ or whatever. Or they might want to use stuff on the console. It just depends. But that's usually routed to the patch bay. So a patch bay layout will go something, once you get everything plugged in the live room, it's coming to the patch bay. That patch bay, the outputs are now of that mic room, which is coming from the live room on the patch bay. All mic channels 1 through 24 or whatever. How many inputs you got in your live room is how many channels you have on your patch bay. The output of that will go into the input of the console. But they'll have the output of that patch bay going into the console. The bottom output of that patch bay would then go into the recording source, like a tape machine or an audio interface. Yeah, so forth. And then they'll have other outputs coming from the console, like inserts, sends on one line, returns on another line, and then they'll have like direct outs. Maybe the direct outs are coming console, going into the inputs of your tape machine or whatever. So it just varies how the patch bay is set up. But from there, then they'll have all the compressors that the studio owns and all the EQs that the studio owns, all the reverbs and delays. All this is in patch bay so the engineer can work very efficiently. The engineer tells the assistant say, okay, I need you to patch in 1176 and Pultec EQ into the signal chain for the kick, whatever. And he'll patch it in. He'll bloop, bloop. He'll click, 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 click. And he's ready to go. It's just like that. That's the reason why professional studios work. But in the end, to sum it up, going real fast, to sum it up, on a professional recording studio, the key factors to why it works is, one, it's the way everything is set up. The way the wiring to the live room and all the isolation rooms are wired, and they're using high-grade wire and things are soldered, grounding is proper, the acoustics are right, and that's not including the gear. That's just that aspect of it. And to say, this is the reason why it took me so long to understand the studio, because believe it or not, there he is flying on the wall. I'm gonna get it because there it is. Don't move. He's like I said, the moths, they squeeze through. There's a little bit of slide and they see the light and they squeeze through the light because that's just how moths are. Now he's by the light. Blinded by the light. So anyhow, now I'm watching them. But anyhow, let me wrap it up because I'm about to get them. So this is the reason why studios, professional commercial studios work, because they take so long to wire the building. And did I get him? He flew right. That was an opportunity. I thought I was gonna get him. I don't see him anymore. So this is the why recording studios work so well, is because they design a recording studio acoustically, for noise isolation, diffusion. All the room is acoustically right, with diffusers, panels, high ceilings, or whatever the case may be. The control room, and then the second most important factor to it to make why they work so well is the wiring, the grounding and the wiring. And most of us that do this at home, we don't know this, and we have at a great advantage unless you want to spend so much money rewiring your home to get rid of dirty electrical issues. That's, in other words, you're picking up grounding noises because you're on the same circuits as your refrigerator, your AC, your dryer, your washer machine, your alarms, all these things that a house don't have to worry about getting noise into the signal in recording. Well, that's detrimental to a recording of buzzes because once you record and you record unwanted noises in your recording, you can't get it out unless you re-record it. There's not a plug-in. The recording. See, we always talk about mixing in the box and plugins. Yeah, that's great when you can do all that once the recording is great. But if the recording is crappy with noises and everything else, train noises, planes flying by, ambulances going by, grounding noises, yeah, all these unwanted noises, you can't get that out unless you redo the track. Especially if you're going to record bands or acoustics. It's not so much as a problem with virtual instruments. But even that, when people are sitting down and they're just listening to, whether you just have a very, very minimum setup and you have, I got to check my time because I know I'm running out of time. Okay. Whether you have a very minimum, like a small interface, a controller, headphones, or studio monitors, you're using your DAW and your software and plugins, but you might be listening to your monitor and still hear buzzes in your studio monitors. Some people will get the little ground isolators where you eliminate the ground, but that's not good to not be able to, because if you have voltage, and you ground, stuff like the travel, electrical, if you have lightning strikes or whatever, and it strikes the house, where voltage travel at the most resistant, and things that are not grounded properly are at the most risk. Especially if you have something like mixed console with a power amp and it's not grounded. Boom, there goes that power amp. So the best way to fix that is to actually properly ground your home for studio, which is a whole different video. So that's going to do it for this video. I know I made one in a long time, but I just want to talk about, this is why professional studios have an edge to why they work so well. And this is what you're paying for. There's another moth. This is why you're paying so much for a professional recording studio, unless you know to fix these issues in your home studio. And once you realize, I need to fix all these issues and properly wire my home recording studio so that the grounding and wiring is properly, then you realize, it starts to get expensive real quick, because your house, nowhere in your house is going to be wired on the level of a commercial studio. Commercial studios spend months wiring the studio properly. They're talking, this is why there are rooms inside of rooms, and the wiring, and this is things that you don't see. So I just want to talk about that, and thanks for watching. I haven't made a video in a while. I'm probably going to spend the next month just talking studio talk, and then I'll just, studio and gear, and I'm coming back. So thanks for watching me on this video, and I hope y'all have a great one, and we'll see you in the next one.